Today, you will learn the full Excel interface, every tab, and all the key commands beginners need. Plus, I'll show you how to integrate an AI assistant inside your workbook to give you tips, write formulas, and suggest charts instantly. By the end of this class, you will feel like a confident Excel pro, even if this is your first time using the software. So before we go into the interface, I would like to give you a brief introduction about the power of Microsoft Excel. So Microsoft Excel is one of the most powerful and widely used spreadsheet programs in the world. It is used by students, businesses, analysts, and organizations to organize, analyze, and visualize data. So Excel is so powerful because it can be used for varying purposes, can be used for different purposes, including budgeting and accounting, project management, data analysis and reporting, inventory tracking, and business forecasting. Okay, so let us go into the Excel interface proper. We want to identify the main areas within the Excel interface, and we'll be also discussing the purpose of those areas. So the first will be the title bar. If you look at this area, you see we have book 1, Excel. So this is your title bar. It shows the workbook name. So I would like to say that when you open an Excel, that Excel document is called a workbook. It is called a workbook. Within a workbook, you can have several sheets. You can see by default, once you just open Excel, you have sheet 1. So you can have several sheets. You can keep adding new sheets so that you have several sheets. So you can have several sheets within a workbook. Okay, so if you save this file or this workbook by a particular name, that is the name that you have in the title bar. But by default, you will have book 1, right? So to save your workbook is very simple, okay? So you can either use the shortcut Control and S to save, right? You can put the title of your workbook, let's say Excel interface. Then you select your location, right? You can click to get more locations, or you click on more options. Then you select your location. So you want to save it in downloads. Then you go ahead, change the title, say Excel interface. So by default, you see save as type, right? Save as type. On this save as type, you have several types that you can save your document in. You have the Excel workbook, you have the Excel macro-enabled workbook, and various types. In fact, you can even save as PDF as well. So we want to save as Excel workbook. So we can select that and click on save. Immediately we click on save, you can see we have the Excel interface as the title of our workbook now, right? Showing on the title bar of our workbook. So that is the title bar. Then we have the quick access toolbar. The quick access toolbar is where you have some tools that you can quickly use while performing your duties within Microsoft Excel. Right now, on the quick access toolbar here, we have save, we have undo, we have redo. So what undo does is, let's say you have written something and you want to undo what you have done. That is when you can undo it. Okay. So now you can see, because you have undone this, you can redo it, right? So you can redo the typing of this. Okay. So that is what that is used for. So by the way, you can customize your quick access toolbar by adding more, right? More commands. Okay, if you check email now, you see that we now have email there in the quick access toolbar. If you check spelling, you see that we now have spelling in the quick access toolbar. So there are customizable shortcuts, right, that we can basically quickly use instead of searching for them within a range of commands in the tab that we have here in the ribbon. So let us now go to the ribbon tabs. The ribbon tabs, right, include home, right, insert, page layout, formulas, data, review, view, and so on. We will now go into looking at the individual ribbon tab and see what they do, okay? So in the home tab is basically the format tab, okay? You can use it to format your text. For instance, you have the clipboard, or let's say you write something here. Let's say we say Anderson, okay? You have written Anderson, and you want to cut it from here to somewhere else. You can just click on cut here, okay? And then here you have paste, right? You can click on paste. You see that we have moved Anderson from the previous cell to a new cell, okay? So to showcase that again, we have, let us cut it again. We cut. Then if you click the drop down on paste, you see you can have different paste options, which we will explore further later on, okay? So you can click on paste and it pastes, okay? Here now, this is copy. So the difference between cut and copy is that in cut, you are taking it entirely off that area. For instance, look at this. When we take it there and paste it here, we are taking it entirely off that area. But for copy, we can copy it, okay? When we copy it and paste it somewhere else, we just make a copy of it, okay? We are just making a copy of it. Now, this is the format painter. Let me show you how the format painter works. Let's say we have formatted this Anderson here in a particular format. Let's give it a background, a fill color of yellow like this. So, and we want to make sure that this is formatted that way too. So what we can do is that we will click to highlight that cell. Basically click once, don't double click, just once. Click on Format Painter, right? Then drop it where you want to paste the format, okay? And that will be done, all right? So in Excel, it is possible that you also paste in a long range. You see, you just click, hold, and drag. You can paste the format within a range, okay? So that is it for the clipboard. And I want to show you this icon here that you can see across all of the groups. Remember, we said this is the clipboard group, right? The clipboard group. Okay, you can click this to go to the backstage, and basically you can see more options within that command. So now we are heading to the font group of commands. In the font group of commands, this is where you can select your font type. Okay, right now we are on Aptos Narrow. You click the drop down, you can see several font types to select. So when you select that font type, for instance, you can see the font type will be applied. Then beside is the size, the font size. This font size, basically, you can increase the size or you reduce it depending on what you want to do, okay? So that is how that works. But now you have shortcuts here beside the font size. This capital letter A here with an icon up is basically increasing the font size. And you have this one here, basically decreasing the font size. That is if you don't want to select low font size or also select a particular high font size. Let's say you don't know exactly the number but you can see it visually and can tell, then you can use these. Okay, let's come to this. This stands for a bold, okay? And the good thing about Microsoft Excel or even Microsoft Office packages is that when you hover over a particular command, you are going to see the shortcut, okay? So the B here is used to make your text bold, okay? You can see this, right? We can make our text bold or remove it from bold. We can italicize it, okay? Make our text italic. We can underline our text as well. Then we have several kinds of underline. When you click on this icon beside underline, you have the single underline and you have the double underline depending on your goal. Then just beside that, we have the border, okay? This is used to add borders, okay? Let's say we want to add borders in this range here. We can click the drop down and have a different or a list of different kinds of border. We have the bottom border, the top border, the left border, and so on and so forth, okay? You have the tick outside border. Basically, you select anyone that you want to apply. Let's select all borders and see. So we have inserted all borders to basically make it look like a table, okay? Now, there are other things you can do. You can basically have custom borders. You can draw your borders, okay? You can basically draw your own border. You can draw your own border grid. You can erase a border. You can choose a particular line color if you want to draw your own border. You can pick a line style if you want to draw your own border. For instance, let's take this line style. When we take that line style, you see we can basically just draw our border, click, hold, drag across, okay, your range to draw or to insert that border. You can see that it's as simple as that, okay? Then we have the fill color. The fill color here is used to color the background. Remember, we are still under the home tab, right? We are looking at the commands in the home tab, and we are basically exploring what they do and how they can simplify our formatting process. Okay, you can see here, this is the fill color. The fill color allows you to insert fields, right? Okay, fill just means background color. Okay, you can basically highlight a particular cell range, click, hold, and drag to highlight. Then click the drop down here beside this paint bucket. Okay, so you can have a lot of colors to select from. Let's say you are not satisfied with the colors you have here. Click on more colors. Then you have the standard colors to select from rather. If you don't like this range of colors and say you have a particular color in mind and you know the hex number or you know the RGB model number, that is red, green, and blue number, or you know this hex number, let's use our brand number, okay? Once you insert that, you click on OK. So beside that, we have the font color. By default, the font color is an automatic, which is the black color, right? Like I showed you earlier concerning the fill color, we have several colors to select from. You can go to more, just the same method we used previously for the fill color, right? So let's say we want to make this, change the text color here. What we'll do, and mind you, when you want to apply formatting to any cell, you have to highlight the cell. And highlighting the cell is as easy as just clicking that cell once, not double click, just left click once. That will be fine. So we want to apply a particular text color here. We have highlighted. We click the drop down and we can select any color of our choice, okay? Okay, let's say we want this gray. You can see how it changes, right? Okay, we have done all of these that we can see, but there are more commands under the font group. To see more commands under the font group, you click on this backstage icon here. Then you are going to see a whole lot of other options, like even the effects here, okay? Like the effects here, you can see the strike through. Strike through means you just have a line strike through the text, highlighted text. Let's click OK, and you see that, right? You can see that. So you can see that you have more. You have your font style, you have your font size, you have your font color. You can indicate whether they are normal fonts, okay? And you can pick your underline type. You realize here that we just have two here, right? But underline here we have none, meaning no underline. We have single and double. We have single accounting and double accounting as well, okay? So you see that you have more here. Then you have more tabs here. This is formatting numbers. This is alignment, okay? We'll go to the alignment group as later on, okay? So let's just clear that and continue. The alignment group basically just helps us to align the content of our cells. The content of our cells may be text, maybe numbers, images as we have them, okay? So that is why we have these alignment now. Let's basically just align this text and we'll see right now, you see how it is, right? So we can align left. By default, text is aligned left. We can align center by clicking on center. You can see that. Let me basically expand this so that you see it very well. We can align left, center, or right, okay? And so whichever you have selected, let me expand this again to clarify. You can see what we have, right? So whichever you select here, alignment, whether left, whether center, and whether right, we can as well align them to the top, you see, right? To the middle, okay, and to the bottom, depending on what you want to align. So let us come to this area of orientation. Orientation basically helps us to set the orientation of our cell contents and is usually used for compact tables where you want the column headings of the table to be kind of slanted in a particular orientation. We have the angle counterclockwise. You can see this, okay? Then we have the angle clockwise. You can see, right? Then the vertical text. You can just try them out, okay? Okay, let's use our quick access toolbar to just undo what we had done. Okay, then here now we are looking at indentations now. We can reduce indent or decrease indent and or increase indent. So this is for indentation. You can see us trying to increase indent. You can also click to decrease indent to see how that works. So still under the alignment, we have the merge command. Now, what the merge command does is that, let's say we have a title, right? We want this Anderson to be the title. So we can select a group of cells or a range of cells rather, and we say we want to merge those cells into one. It's basically used for titles a lot, okay? We want to merge that into one. So we have options as to that include to merge and center. Merge and center here will help us combine and center at the same time. That is, combine the cells that we have highlighted into a compact cell and then center the content. So if we click that, you can see what happens, right? It has merged all of the cells we highlighted and also centered the content, okay? So let us undo that so that we can try the next. So merging across means we can just merge all selected cells in the same that we have selected, basically all cells that we have selected into one large cell, but it still maintains the format position or the alignment basically of the text. So we can basically now on our own align the text as we like, okay? The first was to merge and center. This is to merge across. Then this is to merge cells. So merge cells, we just merge the selected cells into one basically. And we can also unmerge cells. Unmerging cells now take us back to our original position of cells that were merged, were previously merged rather. So after the alignment, as usual, okay, we have not done this. So this is wrap text. So just imagine that you have a whole long text. Let's say on this cell now we have, say, names of students. So Excel has basically Excel has lengths of text it can take per cell. Okay. So right now you would think it crossed to the next cell, but no, it didn't cross to the next cell. When we click on this original cell where we inserted the text, you can see here on the formula bar, right? Name of student. But if we come here that you think it's crossed into, you see that it's empty, right? You can see that it's empty. There's nothing there. So what happens is that, let's say we want to maintain the size of this column. We want to maintain the size of this column, but we want to see names of students complete within that cell. What we'll do is we will wrap the text. So we'll just highlight that area, click on wrap text. You can see now that we have wrapped the text to take the shape of the size of the cell so that we don't necessarily have to expand the cell, okay, or the column. We just have to wrap the text. So that is that example. So the next here is the numbers group. The numbers group basically helps us to format our data. Now, I want you to understand that Excel is a spreadsheet that is made up of rows and columns, okay? So basically, let's go to a new sheet and you can, so that we can showcase that. Excel is made up of what? Rows and columns. The rows are labeled with numbers, okay? And the columns with alphabets, okay? So let us see the last column in the Excel spreadsheet is the XFD column. And let us now see the last row in the Excel workbook. So you can see this is the last row. And let's go back to the first row, okay? And the first column. This is the first column and the first row, okay? This is the second column and the first row, or the second row, as the case may be. We'll basically look at referencing later. Okay, so what happens now in the numbers group is that we have different numbers format from general. General means that there's no specific format. So Excel basically collects data by default in a general format. So it can collect name in that general format, it can collect numbers in that general format. Basically, there's no specific format to that. But if we want to become specific, we can decide to say we want numbers, we want currencies, right? We want counting, formatting, we want dates, for dates to be short dates, long dates, and we want to include time or percentage, as the case may be. You can see them. But these are not all. You can click on more number formats and you now see them. So we have general, we have numbers. You can indicate the separation and the decimal point here. Okay, we have currency, right? So you can select the different currency that you want to work with. Okay, it's as simple as that. You can select the different currencies you want to work with. I think you have something similar within accounting as well. Then you have dates. You have dates. We have the different dates formats. Okay, so you can select your locale, right? For instance, all of these date formats are English United States date format. So you can click the drop down and select your locale basically, and you can see the different formats of dates in that location. Okay, then you have your time as well. Locale is also important here. You have your percentage, you have fraction, you have scientific, you have text, and special. Then you have custom. Custom basically helps you to, allows you basically to set your own format, okay, of data you want to impute or collect within the Excel spreadsheet. So basically, we are going to practicalize these as we progress in other sessions. but this is just to show us how the commands basically work, okay? Now, you can see a shortcut here to the currencies. We have the US dollar and so on. Then for percentage to separate, then this is very important too as well. Let's say we have some numbers here. Let's say we have 98, okay? When we have 98, we can either increase the decimal points, okay? You can see increase the decimal points or decrease the decimal points. Now, after that, we have the styles group. In the styles group, we have conditional formatting. Okay, conditional formatting is one great way of basically formatting our text or styling our text based on selected conditions. Okay, we have the highlight rules. You can see them. We are highlighting rules or cells based on cells that are greater than. We can click and set that up. Less than, between, equal. So basically, we'll look at all of how this works in a different class. Then you can format as table as well. Formatting as table, you can pick a particular. Let me just showcase that. Let's say we select this range and we say we want to format as table. You can pick a format of your table. You can say this is the format you want to use. Okay. When you do that, make sure you click my table has headers. Okay. When you click that, you can click OK. So that will go ahead to insert the table for you. Okay. So you can also achieve that with Control T. So you can say Control T, you can also achieve that sort, okay? Okay, then we have the cells. Here, these are commands that can be implemented within the cell. So number one, we have the insert cell. So you can, if you click on insert cell now, you want to insert cell to the right, you want to shift cells down, you want to insert an entire row or an entire column. So the choice is yours. If you say you want to insert cells, right, you can do that. Basically, depending on what you want to do. Okay. Then for delete, we can delete a particular cell. We can delete sheet rows. We can delete sheet columns or delete the sheet entirely. Okay. We can basically just delete this sheet entirely. Say Microsoft Excel will permanently delete this sheet. Do you want to continue? If we click on delete, we'll successfully delete that sheet. That is how it works. So for format now, you see we can format cell size. We can basically format the visibility by hiding or unhiding particular rows and columns. We can organize our sheets by renaming our sheets, moving or copying sheets, then changing tab color as we want. For instance, we'll do them one after the other, and then we can protect our sheet as well to make sure that people cannot edit it without our consent. So let us start with row height. So this row, we have basically highlighted this row, right? You see where I clicked by the on the number, I have clicked to highlight that row. You can see that the height of that row is clearly large. So let's go to format. You can see we can either click and insert a row height we want. Right now it's 99.5, right? We can say we want it to be 12. We will say 12 and click OK. You can see it will reduce to 12. So let us go back there. There's something we can do. We can also say we want to auto fit row height based on the content of the cells within that row. If we do that, you see to auto fit it based on the content that you have there so that it basically wraps correctly. Okay. The next is column width. Okay. This is row. So this for column, let us pick a particular column, any column to try that out. So we can, just as we did for row, we can basically do for our columns as well. Then going to visibility, we can decide to hide particular columns or particular rows that we don't want to use, or we just want it to just be hidden for the meantime. So we can highlight that row or column, click the drop down on format, then we go to hide, hover over hide. You can see that we either hide rows or hide columns or even hide entire sheet. Okay, let us hide that row that we selected. You see, we've hid it. Okay, if we come now to format and go to visibility, you can see we can unhide what? Unhide rows. That is to unhide the rows we hid earlier. If you click on unhide, you see it will come out, and all the rows you basically hidden will come out. Okay, so for editing here, you have several commands here. You have the sum, you have average. Basically, you have few functions here that you can quickly access. Okay, then you have the fill. Okay, whether you want to fill down, you want to fill right, you want to fill up, you want to fill left. We'll talk about that with examples later on. Then we have the clear formatting. Okay, if we highlight this cell now, for instance, and click on clear formatting, okay, we can see that it will go back to the original default format. Okay, that's what that works as. So for sort and filter, it is used to sort a range of it's used to sort a range of data within your workbook or worksheet based on ascending order or descending order, or whether you want to add filters. Okay, you see where you highlight, you can add filters. Okay, you can add filters. We'll deal with that in detail. Okay, so you can do a custom sort. We'll work on that later as well. We can do a custom sort. Then you can use your find and replace as well. Okay, add-ins here is where you basically can search for add-ins, basically like apps you can have within your Microsoft Excel. Okay, you can see you can insert your QR code add-in, your mini calendar add-in, and so on and so forth. So we basically can search for more add-ins in the Microsoft Store to add in. So let us just, okay, we'll search for ChatGPT. So you can see that here, when you search for ChatGPT, you can add ChatGPT for Excel, okay? You can also add autopilot for Excel, but our goal here is to add ChatGPT for Excel. All we need to do is to click on add, then click on continue. You see it will load the add-ins, and we will have the ChatGPT for Excel add-in. So we have it loading now. So the ChatGPT for Excel will help us with formula suggestions and so on, basically to make our work productive instead of searching for or going somewhere else to open the browser to search for ChatGPT and begin to use ChatGPT there. So, however, the web version of the ChatGPT is more robust than this ChatGPT for Excel. But here, you can basically use it to correct your formulas. So you make mistakes, you can correct your formulas here. You can also ask for guidance here with other things as well. So you see, we now have a new group, right, called AI. So here we have ChatGPT now for Excel. While it's loading, let us quickly go to a new tab on the ribbon, which is the insert. The goal of the insert ribbon is to insert insert into your Excel sheet or workbook. So we have the tables group where you can insert your tables. We are going to see how these tables work. This pivot table for summary analysis. This is just your ordinary table. Then we have illustrations where you can basically insert pictures, insert shapes, insert icons, 3D models, smart arts, screenshots, and so on. We have little projects that we'll be doing to exemplify that or all of these. This is just basically an introduction so that you are conversant with the ribbons, okay? Then we have charts. So charts, we insert charts to visualize our data, right? We insert chart to visualize our data. We have sparklines. Sparklines are small charts that can be inserted within your cells, okay? Then we have filters. filters. In filter group, we have the slicer. The slicer is used to slice through or to filter data visually. Then we have the timeline, which is used to filter dates interactively. Okay, we can also insert link. We can have different text formats, right? Where we have word art, text box, text in the footer, in our footer, signature line, and other objects. Then we can insert equations here, right? Several equations here. You can go ahead and write your own equation as well, or insert symbol. Remember when I was telling you about the Naira symbol, right? It was possible to insert the Naira symbol instead of trying hard to create it. Okay, you can see that. Okay, so now ChatGPT is loaded. It wants to tell it a little bit about or personalize our experience. You say, what is our role? Make sure you select and click your role, whether you're a student, you're a professor or educator, your business, your impressions, and so on. So just select your role. Then where do you find? I just want to hear about where you found them. So you can basically just click where you heard about it. Okay. Then you go next. Okay, so we basically can just close this. You can see we have the home tab for the ChatGPT, right? We have the plans, basically different tabs. We now have the AI newbie. You can click to have more, right? So we can tell it to say give the sum formula. Okay, we'll click, and just like you write prompts in ChatGPT web, so you can here as well. You can also check for correct formulas. Let's say you have a challenge or you have a reason to believe that the formula you're writing is not correct. Okay. So now the next is page layout. Page layout basically just helps us to set the orientation of our page. Okay. While we're talking about page layouts, ChatGPT respond to us. So it gave us the syntax first for the sum, right? Explained the syntax, then give us summing a range of cells, then summing individual number of cells, good. Then adding mixed references, good. Teaching you about the sum that you requested for. Okay, so back to page layout. You can see in page layouts, we have the themes. Themes here, you can select a particular color theme for your workbook. You can select the fonts, right? The font mix, okay, so that it can be the default font type. You can select the effects you want here, okay? So whatever you draw will have such effects. Then you can select particular themes, okay? Basically select particular themes. Then you come to page setup. On the page setup, we have margins. Margins, we just have to say whether we have narrow margins, wide margins, and so on. Orientation, we have two types of orientation, the portrait orientation and the landscape orientation. The choice of orientation basically comes from what you want to do or what you are doing on the workbook and how you want it to be presented or printed and presented. Then we have size. We have several size here depending on the document size you want to use. Most common size used is A4, okay? Is A4, except you want a particular size. So it's possible to add a background. Okay, you can add an image background in your Excel workbook by clicking on background. Okay. Okay. Then we have scale to fit. Scale to fit is group is very important, particularly in Excel now. If you are not careful, you may go and print something that is not. You may go and print something that will cut off. Okay, you may print something that you cut off. So what we do now is scale our documents to fit so that we can print them very well. Okay, can print them very well. So we have the width, we have the height, we have the scale. So if you scale downward, what happens is that it begins to shrink. I don't know if you can see this dotted line. Let me take out this color. Okay, you can see these dotted lines, right? So if we are to print this, let me go down, you see the end. Okay, if we were to print this now, only data that is in this area printed out. So anything outside that area may not be printed out. So that will actually distort our documentation, the essence of the documentation we wanted to do. Okay, so the more you reduce the scaling, the wider the paper becomes. Okay, you can see now the paper is wider now. However, when you scale too much, when you print, you may not see what you printed. So you have to be very careful there. Okay. All right. Now, so we've basically brushed through scale to fit, right? On that page layout. So let us now look at sheet options. In the sheet options here, we have the view checked, that is grid lines view, right? Under grid line. So if we uncheck it, what happens is that you see that the grid line is gone. Now, I must add that some of these functions and the placements may change a little bit depending on the version of Excel you are using. Using version 2021, I will recommend that you always upgrade your versions, always use new versions so that you can have new tools, right? New commands, basically, to work with, basically moving with technology advancement, okay? Then, because you are going to later see that some of you may find these grid lines and headlines within your view tab, okay? But here it is. So let's just talk about it. So for the headings, right? For the headings, you see the headings are this A, B, C, that is the column headings and so on. So if we uncheck it that we don't want to view it, you see that the headings, the A, B, C, and the 1, 2, 3, that is the column and the row headings are gone, right? But if we put them back, you see, if you click check on view, basically we'll be putting them back. So that is it for the sheet options. Let's work now with the arrange group. Okay. Now, in the arrange group of commands, just as the name implies, arrange helps us to arrange our text or objects that we've inserted within the spreadsheet. Okay. For instance, you can see bring forward. Bring forward here implies that you bring a text forward, right? Or an object forward. Okay. For instance, let's say let's insert something. We've talked about the insert tab. Okay, let's insert a shape. Okay, we'll just insert this rectangle shape here. Okay, and then we insert a text box. Okay, still under insert, right? You can easily find your text box under shape as the first or recently used, or under your insert tab, you can find them under text. You can see text box here, right? So let's pick this text box. Okay, we can draw the text box now on the box we have already inserted. So now let us just basically write something, just something to simplify this or to practicalize this. So you can see that this box is actually behind our text box, right? Making our text box in front, okay? Basically, in the order at which we inserted them, all right? So, but maybe, just maybe you wanted this text box to be behind, okay? Or you want this box to come forward. You can click to highlight the box, for instance, and say bring forward or bring to front. You can see, right? See what happens. It's now in front, covering the text box. So in situations where you find it like this, probably maybe you didn't insert in the order that we inserted, you want to send this box backward, right? So that is when you make sure you highlight it, okay? So that is when you can now say send to back or send backward. You can see it's just as simple as that. Then when it comes to selection pane, Selection pane here shows you the order of which you have selected your box. For instance, look at this now. We have our text box. It's called text box 2 here, okay? We have the rectangle that we inserted. These are the boxes we inserted. So if you click on this eye icon, you basically will not see the rectangle. If you click to remove it, you basically see the rectangle. So that's just what the selection pane is. So this is the selection pane actually. For instance, now, if I hold down Control and click both my shapes, for instance, let me highlight this, then hold down Control, you can see I've selected both, right? I selected both inserts, that is the rectangle and the text box. You can see both of them highlighted here, okay? Right? You can see both of them highlighted here as selected. So you can hide all. Let me show you. You can hide all of your objects, your inserts. That is a text box that you inserted and a rectangle by just clicking on hide all, right? Or you can hide them, like I said earlier, by just clicking on the eye icon here individually, depending on the box you want to hide. Let's assume that you've hid all and you want to show all. You just have to click on show all. So that's the work of the selection pane. So let us close the selection pane now. And then we come to align. Remember, you see that all of these commands are grayed out, right? They are grayed out because the boxes have not been selected or highlighted. So if we highlight the boxes, select more than one, so I can just hold my control, highlight the first one, then come to the edge. You can see my cursor, right? How it is. Then click on the second one. You can see now that both are highlighted. So if you come to align now, you can see that align commands now have been activated. So now align left. What does align left do? If you click on align left, you see that the object will be aligned to the left. If you click on align center, you'll find out that they will both be aligned very well in the center. If you click on align right, it's going to be aligned to the right, okay? And so on. So basically, that is it. So now, the reason why distribute horizontally and distribute vertically are grayed out is because we've not satisfied the condition for these to be activated. Now, let me show you this. Let's say we have, say, 2 to 3 boxes. Let's do it this way. Let me remove this text box so that you get my point. Let's say we were designing something, or we have charts. You can use this for charts here as well. So, all right. So now let us duplicate this. I can adjust this now. Let's adjust this. You can see where I'm adjusting from, right? So you can basically adjust from all of these axes, not here, not here, not here, and not here, the axis, so that you can have the equal size of the shape as you inserted it. So let me say Control D for duplicate. Okay. You can see, let me just keep them in a way that is not arranged so that you understand what I'm trying to point at. So now we have these shapes. Okay. So I want to highlight all of them. Like I said, hold down Control while clicking them. It's a good way, an easy way of highlighting them together. So I want to go to align now. You can see that distribute vertically and distribute horizontally have now been activated. But when you will use this distribute vertically is if you stack, or your shapes are stacked vertically, okay? Now we have them stacked vertically, right? So if I click on distribute vertically, it means that the shape, let me basically put them in different space. You can see the space between each of the boxes now is different. So let me highlight all of them now to buttress that point or drive home that point. So if I say distribute vertically, what happens is that it makes the space between the boxes even, right? So now we have made it even. Let us use the align to basically put them together. Now, to align left is when, let's say, you know that all of the shapes are of the same size. If you align left, you see them, they will be aligned left, right? But in a situation where, for instance, this shape now is smaller, let's say it's smaller, right? And you want to stack them based on size, instead of stacking them to the left, you may want to stack them to the middle or to the center. Let's see how that works here. So we'll say align. We can align center now. If you align center, then you can see that they are basically aligned properly to the center based on the side. So that is how you can use that. Okay. So I've basically discussed what we've discussed distribute vertically, right? So let's discuss distribute horizontally. Now, to distribute horizontally, you must have your shapes arranged horizontally, okay? So let us highlight all of them together. Then we basically align to middle. Now, align to middle and align to center, you can see the difference, right? The difference here is that in one, you can see your shapes are vertically arranged, right? You put them vertically, but to the middle, they are what? Horizontally aligned. Okay, so let's pick middle. You see now, shade, you see the same thing we did when we had them stacked vertically. So let us now use the distribute horizontally now. If we click on distribute horizontally, you see that we have now distributed them horizontally equally, leaving the space between the boxes the same. Okay, so that is what that does. So we basically discussed all of these. So snap to grid, right? Let's talk about snap to grid. Snap to grid basically refers to you being able to tell Excel to say, I want you to make sure that any object or anything I'm doing will snap to grid lines. You can see, right? So instead of moving anyhow, when I move a box, it has that attraction to a grid line, okay? Whether horizontally, whether vertical grid lines, you can see, right? So that is what that does, okay? Now, we can say the next one is snap to shape. Okay, snap to shape basically helps us to snap our objects to shape that we have around there. So that is what that does, okay? Now, let's move to the next one. The next one is the group. You can see that the group is grayed out, not activated, because we have not selected objects to be grouped. So you can group two or more objects, not just an object. So by the time we click the second, you can see group have been activated. But let's just group all of the shapes that we have inserted. So I can either click the drop down on group or just go ahead and click on group. Okay, we then click on group. You can see now we can move them as just a single object. Okay, you see they have been grouped. Now you want to ungroup. It's easy as highlighting it, go to group and then click on ungroup. When you click on ungroup, it's possible that since they are still all highlighted, it's possible for you to do what? To regroup. Okay, so you have basically regrouped. Then still under the arrange group of commands, you see that we have rotate here. So rotate helps you to rotate objects in different angles, okay? All right, so that's just it if you want to rotate in different angles. However, it's also possible to manually rotate, but to manually rotate, you have to highlight, then come to this rotate icon, click hold and move your mouse around, okay, just as I'm doing. Now, because we checked snap to grid line, it is actually easy for us. You can see the snap is basically easy for us to move it and for it to easily be straight because we are snapping to grid line. But if you are not snapped to grid line, it's not really easy to move this around, okay? So to do that easily, is for you to either you flip vertically or horizontally as you like it, or rotate in different percentage, or go to more rotation options basically to adjust it by yourself. Okay, you can see this, right? You can adjust the rotation. Look, this is it. You can adjust the rotation by yourself. You see, when you adjust the rotation, you see your shape moving. The size and the width here refers to the size, the height, the width of the shape. So since we want to rotate, this is where we rotate, okay? This is just where we rotate. So you can change this to any value of choice to do your rotation. So that is how it's done, okay? Let's look at the formula tab. In the formula tab, we have a rich function library. The function library have been grouped based on or characterized based on the functions that they do. So we have the financial formulas or financial functions. You have the logical functions, right? You have the text functions. You have the time and date functions. You have the lookup and reference functions. You have the math and trick functions. Then you can basically have more functions where you have the statistical functions, the engineering functions, the cube functions, the information functions, the compatibility and web functions. Still under the formula, we have the name manager. The name manager helps us name ranges. So we are going to see this in details in the future as we progress within this course or in this course. Okay, the name manager helps us to name a particular range. So instead of using cell references, we will use the name. So it's possible to give a particular range, so give it a name you like instead of calling it cells, okay? Then for formula auditing, you can trace precedents of formulas and so on. We are going to deal with all of these using practical scenarios. So let's just brush through and so we know what to expect and where to find the functions, okay? Then we have calculation options. Now, Excel calculates by default automatically. You want to make sure that you leave it to calculate automatically so that once you update something, it calculates instead of waiting for you, because that's one of the superpowers of Microsoft Excel. All right, so let's go to the data tab in the ribbon. The data tab in the ribbon basically helps us to manage our data and perform some analysis. Under the get and transform data, this is where we get data from different sources. We can get data from the web, we can get data from file, we can get data from databases, and so on and so forth, and different sources basically. So we are also going to deal with this in we're also going to deal with these as we progress in the course. So if you find this helpful, make sure you subscribe, share with others so that they can learn, okay? Now, that is what happens in the Get and Transform Data tab, right? For the queries and connections here, you remember we can get data from different sources, right? So we're using the Excel built-in Power Query to connect these sources. So that is what is called, well, the data we connect are actually called queries, okay? So these will help us see, for instance, we say queries and connection, because we don't have any connection here. We have not connected any data here. We will not see any queries, neither do we see any connection because we don't have any data connected, okay? So for sort and filter, the sort, we already saw the sort and filter options in the home tab, okay? And then it's just to help us basically filter through data or sort data in maybe descending or ascending order, okay? Then the data tools here, we have several data tools here, and this is very instrumental in making sure we manage our data or perform analysis in Microsoft Excel. The text to column here help us to do what? To split columns, okay? We can split single columns. For instance, let's say we have a date, right? It's separated by a delimiter. I want to give us that example. Let's say we have 03, 02, 20, 20, 26, right? So now these dates contains the day, the month, and the year separated by forward slash, which in this case is a delimiter. A delimiter is something that separates data. So it could be space, it could be tab, it could be comma, it could be at. For instance, if you see an email, you say at, right? Gmail, for instance, .com. So within this at gmail.com, you'll find out that the at separates the username, let's say innocent, from the Gmail, the provider, right? Then this dot also separates Gmail from com, right? So here we have two delimiters here, okay? So let's take that out so that we see how this works. So the text to column basically helps us to split data by delimiter, okay, by the presence of delimiter. And we have delimited here, fixed width here. We'll go into these in future classes in details, okay? So this is just brushing through, okay, so that by the time you get there, you know what to expect. So if we say delimiter, we pick next. You can see the delimiters, right? Like I made mention earlier, you have the tab, semicolon, comma, space, and others. Others gives us the opportunity to actually impute the delimiter that we can find there. So here we have the forward slash delimiter. And in the data preview, you can see, right? It's been separated based on the occurrence of each of the delimiter. You get it, right? Okay. So we can click on next. And here, remember when we're talking about data format, we say by default, all data formats in Excel is general, that is formatted as general. Meanwhile, we have text format, date format, and many other formats, okay? So by the time we click finish, we'll see that this has been separated into all the delimiters. This has been separated by the delimiters, you can see, right? So when you separate, it's normal basically sometimes to see Excel do this, okay? So if we can go back to home and then say maybe pick a number format, you see let's reduce or decrease our decimal. You see that we have this. This was 3/2/2026, now having clearly separated into various components of that data that we collected. So that is what happens there in this text column, okay? Then you have the flash fill. Flash fill just basically helps us fill fill cells using using patterns. For instance, if I say Judith, let's say we have names together, say all names together, all right? Say Judith Abba, okay? And these were like full names, right? And we decided to say, okay, or let me continue, we say Paul Jones, okay? And we say Paula Rice, okay? Now we wanted to, let's say we have full names, and we now say first name and other name. So this can work by basically separating or filling out cells based on patterns. So we say Judith, right, for first name. So flash fill just basically means we can say Control E. You see Control E now because it followed this pattern that we picked Judith here, first name. So it goes through this pattern to select the first names for us. So if here we now say Abba, for instance, then we hit enter to go to the next cell. If we say Control E for flash fill, what happens is that it basically picks the last other names, basically, or the last names that we have here. It basically picks the other name, okay, and fill it following the pattern that we have done. So that is what flash fill does. So the next one here is remove duplicates. Remove duplicates basically removes repeated values, similar repeated values, or the same values repeated in our spreadsheet. So here we have data validation. Data validation helps us to validate our data by setting rules so that data will be entered correctly. So we are also going to see that training in this course, okay? We are going to look into data validation properly and in depth, okay? So then the next one is to consolidate. The consolidate summarized data from ranges, from different ranges that we have and put them in a simple or single output range. Then we have the data model. In Excel, it's possible to manage data in models. Okay, so here we can basically perform data analysis expression or DAX. That is taking us to advanced data analytics, right? We can also perform relationships, right, between several tables, okay, using star schema. So we are also going to be looking at that in this course as well. So when we go to the forecast, we can perform what if analysis. The what if analysis here basically is you trying different scenarios to see how they affect the final outcome. Okay, you can create a forecast, okay, to forecast to predict trends from previous data or from the data you have. Then we come to the outline group where we can group rather, on group, then we calculate subtotals. So that's it for the data. Remember, I said the data helps us to manage our data, perform analysis, okay? Right? So we'll be having some quiz in this video. So you do well to respond to the quiz. If you have any question, ask your question in the comments. We are going to respond to you quickly, okay? All right. Then we come to the review tab. The review tab is basically helpful for us to manage spellings, lookout, translation, add comments, right? Basically helping us to correct or add reviews for collaboration. It basically makes collaboration easy. So under proofing, we have spellings, we have thesaurus, we have workbook statistics. Then you can as well translate, okay? You can translate to different languages. Okay. Now, when you click on translate, you can translate to English. You can translate to different languages. Let's say we want to translate this to Danish. Okay. To translate to Danish. So this is what we can do here. For instance, we have it in English. You can translate to French. Okay. You can translate to French, and it will translate to French. So that is what the translate is used for. So we can basically also add comments. We can add comments, okay? Let's say we highlighted this cell. So you can click on new comment and add comments, okay? And you who added a comment, your name will be there, be added there, and so on and so forth. Let's say restricted, okay? I can add that. So I've added that comment. The comment, when you hover over the cell, you added a comment, you see the comment, okay? So now, for this previous and next, let's say we have more comments, so we can move to the next comment. You can see, we say Microsoft Excel reached the end of the workbook. Do you want to continue reviewing from the beginning of the workbook? That's because this is the only comment here. So there's no new comment. There's no other comment, rather. So if I add a comment here, I say new comment. So it will be possible to move from previous and next, between previous and next. Let's say names, okay? So I have more than one comment. So if I'm here, I can go to next easy, right? You see the next comment, and I can go to previous. I can go to next, and so on. So I can also delete comments now because I've added comments. So if you click on the cell where you have comment, you can delete the comment, right? That comment is gone. That is how you can remove comment. You can also edit the comment you have already, but make sure you click on the cell that you have the comment. So you can edit the comment to basically add something or change something. So that is how it is, okay? You can show and hide comments, okay? Okay, like this. Okay, let's go to the period where we had 2 comments, okay? If I show comments, the comments where the area where I highlighted before I clicked on show comment or hide comment, the comment will be shown. But if I say show all comments, everywhere within the sheet where comments are, all the comments will come up, right? Whether highlighted or not. And that's important because you may want to see if there are any comments that you are missing within your spreadsheet. So the next here is the protect group of command where you can protect your worksheet. So we'll be seeing that as we progress in the course, okay? So then this takes us to the view tab, okay? The view tab helps us to set the stage. It basically helps us to set the stage for our worksheet or workbook. So you can see now it's on normal, right? This is a normal view. We can put it on page break view, right? We can basically put it on page layout view so that you can see the different pages, right? So this now makes it, we have page 1, page 2. You can see that, right? Based on page. So in Excel now, it's like a spreadsheet. It's so wide that you can fix your data, impute your data, or insert your data without knowing that you can't print that wide, those wide pages. So you have to, your tables may break from page 1 to page 2. So this page layout view helps you to basically look at it and say, okay, is my table aligned and is it set to one page or individual pages, or are they breaking into different pages? Okay, so on the normal view, you wouldn't know. Okay, on the normal view, you wouldn't know. But when you come to page layout view, you will see that you have them broken into pages just like you have in Microsoft Word. Okay, let's go back to normal view. So then we come to show now. Remember when we were in the home tab, in the page layout tab, I told us about the sheet options, right? That you find these options in the view tab, okay? So in the view tab, you can see here under show, you can see that we can remove grid lines. You can see the grid lines are gone. We can remove this formula bar. The formula bar is gone. We can also remove the headings, okay? So anything you check, you see that it will come back, right? Let's uncheck the heading now, for instance. The heading, the ABC123 is gone. That is the row and column heading. If we uncheck for the grid lines are gone. If we uncheck the formula bar, you see that the formula bar will be gone. So, okay. Then the zoom, under the zoom, you can zoom your worksheet. The mid zoom is 100%. So if you want to make it 200%, you can zoom that. So there's the easy way of zooming your work book or worksheet. You can see it here. You can increase zoom here or reduce zoom here as you want, okay? All right, so zoom to selection basically helps you zoom to the area where you have highlighted, okay? Let's go back to 100% zoom. So if you click this area here of 2026 and it says zoom to selection, that area of 2026 will be zoomed to that selection. So let's go back to that. So, all right. Freeze pane is another important, very, very important part of you managing your worksheet, okay, or managing your sheets, okay. Now, for freeze panes helps you to freeze certain panes. You can freeze your top row. Freezing your top row means row 1 will be frozen. If you scroll, you still have that row 1 static, okay. Now, sometimes if you want to have more than one row of frozen, when you freeze your first row, you can just insert. Every row you insert on the frozen row is also frozen. You can see, right? We have 3 rows there, and you can see that 3 rows have been frozen. So you can unfreeze the pane you are frozen, right? By clicking on freeze. Then you can freeze your first column. Your first column here, right? If you freeze first column, you see that you can scroll, right? And you can see your first column now has become static. Just as we did in the row, you can insert to expand your frozen column. You can see we have 2 columns, A and B now have been frozen. Now, what determines what you have to freeze? You have, let's say you have column headings, okay? And you say you have names of customers and you've not converted that to a table. In a table, the table has the title of the columns are quite static, so you can scroll down to the last and wouldn't have any problem. But if you just have them in your ranges, when you scroll down, okay, let me give you an example now. Let's say this is names, okay? And because this one has not been frozen, if we scroll down, you see there's no longer name, right? Because we are the fourth row now. So the first row has been hidden. So if we freeze that row, okay, like let's say, let's go back to freeze panes and freeze top row. If we freeze top row, as we scroll down, names remain static. That is that first column that carries our column headings remain static. So it is easy for us to know what column we are actually working with. So that is how it works, okay? Okay, so we've talked about the ribbons, okay? So let's talk about others. You see here, this, what we have here is the name box. So this is the name box. The name box basically gives the name of the cell you select. You can see as we move along, you can see the name box. So here is the formula bar. This is the formula bar. So the formula bar is used to write formulas, edit formulas easily, okay? All right. So we will see the application in the course as we progress. All right. Then here we have this plus helps us to add new sheets. Okay. If you can add new sheets by clicking on them. Okay. And you can edit the name of the sheet by just double clicking and changing it to whatever you want to change it to. Or you can right click and now say rename. Okay. You can say rename and change it. Okay. That's how that is done. Then we have already talked about the zoom here. Okay. Now, this is to minimize, this is to maximize, and this is to close. Okay. To close it. So we've come to the end of our brush through of Excel interface. Now, in the next course, we'll be looking at Excel interface with practice, where we will talk about cell styles, how to sort and filter, page setups and printing, understanding referencing and formulas, understanding the data tab, using ChatGPT within Excel, data validations, and how to protect the sheet. Remember to subscribe, share, and comment, ask your questions, and so let's progress. Okay, see you in the next class.